Healing Past Trauma and Abuse Through Christ. This is the last video in my series, and this is the second part of the video I did before, which was letting go of control. And in this video, I'm going to talk to you about how I had to give over control to God. So it really is a two-part, right? It's letting go of control, and at the same time, you're handing that control over to God. So you're not just kind of floating around aimlessly with, like, where am I going? What am I doing? And I just want to talk to you about how I did it and the steps that I took. And I really did have to give everything up completely to God. I gave up everything. I submitted to His love, to His guidance, to His correction. Everything that is in my life right now is centered around Christ. And that is really where you need to end up, right? You have got to have Christ as your center. You've got to have Christ as the most important thing in your life. And for me, I have children. And I never thought in my life that I would ever have anything that was more important to me than my children. Christ is the most important thing to me. And I love Him. And I am grateful to Him. And I just need to be submissive and obedient to Him. And what that means for me after I handed over that control is every day I ask Him, what am I meant to do? What do you want me to do today? Where is my next step? And I only ask for that day, right? And I mean, I ask for other things like, hey, where are we going to be 10 years from now? I have no idea. He hasn't told me that. He doesn't generally act like that. But I just rely on God to tell me where I need to go and what I need to be doing. And that giving up of control and handing it over to God is really difficult for survivors of abuse, because the last time somebody else was in control of our lives, it ended badly, right? I haven't had anything else or anybody else in control of my life since I was a child and I got out of that abusive relationship. So it was difficult for me. And I started out, it's like, I'm going to give a little piece, I'm going to give a little this piece, I'm going to give a little this piece. But finally, like I said in my last video, I had to just give everything to God. I gave it all up. I let go of all of that control. And what does it mean to give control to God? It means that every single thing you do must be with the focus of living like Christ. And that's where the peace comes from. That's where your joy is going to come from. That's where my meaning comes from. What does God want from me? How can I act in a way, or what can I do that is gonna honor what He has done for me? And there is never anything that I'm going to be able to do that's going to equal the sacrifice that Christ gave. There's nothing, zero, no chance. But I can try to improve my relationship with God, be more like Christ, give Him control over everything, and be submissive and obedient to Him. Now, there are two scriptures that I use, and I just lean on these heavily. And the first one is Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understandings. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make you straight your paths. And Philippians 4:19, and my God will meet all your needs according to the riches of His glory in Christ. So what does that mean? What does that mean? I didn't know. What that means is that we attach control. We believe that there's this lie that Satan tells us, right? That there's not enough of fill in the blank. There's not enough money. There's not enough security. There's not enough food. There's not enough prestige. There's not enough anything. And therefore, because of this scarcity issue, we have to fight and control and claw to get what we need to survive. And that's a lie of Satan. And the truth is that it doesn't matter about any of those things, because God will provide for your needs. Now, does that mean you're never going to suffer? No, that's not what that means, because people are in the world and there is suffering that people are going to visit on you, and there's suffering that the world itself is going to visit on you. And people often ask me, why does God let this happen? Why does God let that happen? And and my answer to that, and I'll say this just very briefly here, is it's two-part. One, when we fell in the Garden of Eden, we lost the privilege to a perfect world. We chose to define good and evil on our own terms, and we wound up outside of the garden in a world full of violence, danger, hardship. That was what happened when we lost the Garden of Eden. And the second part of that is free will. Like, if somebody else wants to exert their free will and harm me, God's not going to interfere with free will to protect one person, because free will is too important. And do I understand why everything happens? No, I surely do not. But what I do have in place of that understanding, need to understand, is I have a trust. I have trust that God is going to see me through whatever he puts me into. And he has. He has seen me through everything in my life. Every single thing. I've come out on the other side of it. And, not always intact. When I was trying to do it on my own, it never worked out well. But I had to give over control. And I want you to think of it like two people trying to drive the same car. Right? Two people cannot drive the same car at the same time for any significant amount of time with any kind of safety or accuracy. You must give that up. I had to give that up. I had to take my hands off the wheel and I just move over into the passenger seat and trust that God was going to take me where I needed to be, and surely he did. And I asked him, what's next for me? And this is the big phase, right? This is kind of like where it all comes together. What's next? And God said, share what I've shown you. So I'm sharing what he's shown me. And the other thing was continue to grow in my word and serve me in whatever way that I ask. And that's what I do. And so every day I ask God, what do you have planned for me today? What do I need to do today? And the peace that I got, once I threw away the lie of Satan that there's not enough, and I realized that there is enough because God is enough. Once I tossed that out and I embraced that understanding and that truth that God is enough for me, peace, a calmness, joy, it all just kind of settled on me. And all of the stages through this journey have really brought me a new level of peace, a new level of peace, a new level of peace. And this is just kind of like the cherry on top, because I don't worry about things. Things happen that I don't understand, and that's okay, because I have a very small, limited view of the world. But what I do is I trust that God sees it. God knows. God's going to take me where I need to be. God's going to put the people in my path that need to be in my path, and he's going to move the people away from me that I don't need to be around anymore. I trust God implicitly, and that is where my peace comes from, because no matter what is thrown at me, God has me in the palm of his hand. And let's look at Jesus, right? Our whole goal, my goal as a Christian, is to live like Jesus, to be as much like Jesus as I can be. And I know that I never will be, but I can keep trying. And what did Jesus do? Jesus walked in poverty, in humility, in meekness, and with peace. And his enemies struck out at him, and they belittled him, and they captured him, and they tortured him, and they killed him. And you know what? No matter what they did to him, it didn't matter, because God exalted him at the end. He defeated death. He defeated sin. God exalted him, and we are joint heirs with Christ. We are entitled to what Jesus has, and what I want from God that he has given me is peace. And I don't need a fancy car, and I don't need a big house, and I don't need a nice prestigious job. I don't need any of that stuff, and I don't worry about any of that stuff anymore. All I need is God. And I have him. And that's where that peace comes from, knowing that my needs are met because I have God in my life. So the last stage, this last thing, is to give up control, to just turn it all over. Give it to God and continue to work on yourself, because I'm still working on myself. I still have a lot of things that I have to do. And God's last word to me was study my word. And so I'm making changes in my life. I'm doing what I need to do. Every day I examine myself and I ask God, show me the areas where I need to work on myself, because I'm a work in progress, to be sure. So, God doesn't want perfection. He wants us to walk with him. And the moment that you're walking with God, that's when you're in fellowship with him. And that's the difference between saved and being in fellowship with God. And the moment that you're in fellowship with God, that was when I saw my blessings begin to just be poured out over my life. I did not know the difference between being saved and being in fellowship with God. And now I do. And now I am in fellowship with God. And I am walking with him, and I am striving to be more like him. And I ask for his guidance, and everything I do is for the Lord. And I start my day talking to him, and I end my day talking to him, and he is everything in between. And I want it to be that way. I want that relationship with him. And that is where my healing journey has brought me, to a place where God is my comforter, God is my guide, God is my protector, God is my provider. And the moment that I stopped looking for all of the things outward in the world and I turned to God for them, that's when my healing journey was complete. And there I am, and there you can be. I mean, it's really so peaceful. And I don't worry, and I don't stress, and I love my life, and I love the people around me, and I don't look at people with, worry or stress or distrust. I look at them all as children of God, and I love them as Jesus loved them. And if you can do that, then you're going to find peace. And I believe you can do that. And this is the last video, but I'll be doing more. God bless you.